So we should be live. You've got Mel. Hi, Melody.
They actually have two Mels, you and me.
That's right. So my wonderful guest today is Dr. Melodie Rosenfeld. Did anybody ever call you Mel?
Yes, but not
So
many
this is
people.
okay. So
Yeah,
this is Mel Rosenberg interviewing Mel Rosenfeld.
right,
But we
right.
start out. We start out with our jingle.
Okay,
Always have to start out with the jingle. Took years to make, you know.
you got mail, huh?
You got Mel. Here we go. Get a chair, grab a seat, or we'll sweep you off your feet. We move, we groove, you got Mel. Ease your legs, rest a while, all you gotta do is smile. We're swell, can't you tell? You got Mel. When the show begins, you better hold on real tight, or before you know it, you'll be high as a kite. Take a break, settle down, we're the only show in town. SRO, don't you know you got Mel? Give it up, don't think twice, we're a hurricane on ice. What the hell, give a yell, ring your bell, show and tell. Mademoiselle, give a smell, you got Mel. You've got Mel. And get a chair, grab once a is seat, enough. Once is enough. Come on. And Mel has Mel. So Dr. Melodie Rosenfeld, a melody for melody.
Yeah,
Great to see you on You've Got Mel. So
great to
Mel
see you
has
again.
Mel on You've Got Mel.
Yeah.
So I've known you for quite a while. Tell us about yourself before we met.
Strangely, I met you, gosh, not so long ago, maybe about 6 or 7 years ago, and and it turns out that we had a lot in common besides our common, almost common names. And that we had many years ago, gosh, like decades ago, spent time on Habanim workshop in Kibbutz Urim. So
Yes.
yeah. So, and we found that out. That was very exciting.
So
Um,
where
so,
did you grow up?
so I was born and raised in San Francisco. And at about age 15, I joined Habonim. And then I went on Habonim workshop to Urim. That was a wonderful year, wonderful growing year with about 30 other young people, 18-year-olds. And then to UC Berkeley, doing a degree and junior year abroad, back to Israel. And then I thought I was going to make Aliyah in 1970, and I became the leader of the Young Judea Year course on Mount Scopus. So that was very exciting. And then I was a teacher in Midrashat Sde Boker, and I was a tour guide, and I led a lot of trips there. And meanwhile, I met my husband, and we went back to America. We got married,
Mm-hmm.
and we always wanted to come back to Israel. And it took about 10 years and two kids and a master's, two masters for me and a doctorate for him in Lawrence Hall of Science. And then we finally made it. So we made it in with two kids, and we had two more children. We made Aliyah to Rehovot, and I worked for the educational TV for a year, and then seminar kibbutzim and Achba. I was the head of the English department for the final 4 years a while ago at Achba, and then I transferred over to Talpiot College. So I've been teaching classes. I'm a lecturer in all sorts of areas. I don't teach English. I teach in English at the moment, but I don't teach English. I help teacher development. Very exciting field, especially now. Oh my gosh.
So what would you like to talk about first?
Okay, so how about if I talk about something that happened just last week? This is a course that I was involved in. I was one of five team teachers from Talpiot College in Chulon. Two of the lecturers, Aluba and Marcia, started a website, not a website, a WhatsApp site. And there are over 250 teachers, supervisors, principals. And this has been going on for about 2 to 3 months, sharing information and sharing their concerns like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen in September? How do we go back with the corona? And how do we teach distance teaching? And there was a lot of stress involved and a lot of among teachers. And so we got together and said, let's make a course. Let's do a quick course. So within 2.5 weeks, we put together a 30-hour course, the six of us. and and quite amazing about how do you deal with what's going on. And if you allow me to show you a quick slide, just a couple of slides here, I'll do share screen. I'll show you the culmination of it. Your sister
Melody,
would,
you've got
yeah,
Mel. It's your show.
yeah, all right, thank you. Thanks for providing this platform. So many times teachers have children. This is teaching of English, although it's also appropriate for other subjects. We get so involved in speak at the home mill, which is cover the material, that we forget that we have to really get kids excited. And there's usually no time. So when you teach English, for example, you do all the exercises and the vocabulary and the quizzes, etc. And you don't get to those interesting, exciting activities at the end of the unit. Well, welcome Corona, and welcome the fact that kids can turn off their screens now and they can stay in their pajamas and really not pay attention. So somehow nature, Hashem, the pandemic has fast forwarded the future. You like to talk about the future in education? Well, here we are. Teachers, even excellent teachers, can't get away anymore with just saying, fill out the work pages, do this, do that, and you get a grade. So now we do backward design and saying, what is that really exciting platform that kids, the students, really from first or from third until 12th grade can show their products, or if you're teaching English, can show their English, their speaking, their reading, their writing, whatever it is. That's where, of course, our books comes in. You get a free ad here. So
Thank you very much.
So basically, in English, we call it performance-based tasks, not to make it too confusing, but if you're teaching some kind of a story in English, let's say literature, and the kids are learning vocabulary and they're learning the concepts, well, what do you take a test? That's it. They turn their screens off. But if you have something exciting where they can do something with the vocabulary, they can show their opinions, they can make a podcast, they can do something. Now all of a sudden they're excited, their cameras are open maybe, and it's just a much better world. And also Zoom allows us to do that. So not to belabor this a little bit, this was a presentation that I did at the very last presentation of the 30-hour course, which we did all, of course, online. 160 teachers signed up. And this, for example, is I just wanted to share just a couple slides. EFL, English as a foreign language. So there's basically 6 steps. Of course, you have to engage the kids. This is true of all lessons, whatever you teach. If you teach history, you teach math. When you're on Zoom, you better engage the kids. How are you? What's going on? And interesting things. Okay, we did that. Then you have to teach them. Teach them what do you want to teach? So, okay, in any subject, you got to do that. And then you have to have them practice, especially if it's in English or if it's in math. So practice the vocabulary, practice the grammar. We got that. And then what usually happens is the next step. Give them a test. So either you evaluate the individual child with a quiz, or you assess the class with formative assessment and you say, how are we doing and how am I teaching? And this is usually where it ends. So what we were trying to accomplish, and what Zoom and distance teaching allows us to accomplish, is a step in between, which is the most exciting step of all. And I think this is really the future of some of education, and it's a wonderful, wonderful direction. And that's this step, having them apply what they learn and having them share what they learn. Don't worry about the terminology. PBT is called performance-based task, but it's show me what you know, use the vocabulary, use the math, whatever it is. And the trick here is to have an engaging platform. So the engaging platform is, well, where are the kids going to put the play that they wrote? Where are the kids going to put the podcast? What are we supposed to do with this stuff? In a regular classroom, you just don't have time, and it's just too pressured. But during Corona, the Israeli Ministry of Education has said, don't worry about coverage. Thank goodness, finally. Don't worry, just do less, get them more excited. This is Generation Z, where they're super excited, and we bore them a lot sometimes. So here we go. You engage them and you tell them about what platform they're going to publish their little book that they wrote. If they're 4th graders, it's 2 sentences. If they're Yud Bet, it's matriculation essay, which is what your sister showed us during this conference.
Mhm.
Then you teach the vocabulary, let's say, or you teach what they need for the platform. Well, you're going to need to know how this vocabulary and you need to know this grammar. Oh, we have a reason to learn it now. You have them practice. You can have a quiz on the spelling words, da da da. But it's so that they can do something with what they have learned. They can use what they have learned. And then for assess, yeah, you could give another quiz, but you could probably also assess the platform and what they have given you. Amazing R books or amazing emails presentation. Good for you, 90. Another 10 points for the drafts you handed in. So this little model here has always been around, but the weight was different. We never got to 4 and 5. We just got to teach and give a test. So I'm delighted. This is a whole new direction, and it's delicious and it's exciting.
Mhm.
And the teachers said, "Oh, we can finally do it." And I think
So,
I have one. Oh, I have, yeah.
Melody, you and I aren't the youngest teachers in the country, but why is it taken so long to understand that you need to engage your children to get the best results?
I think that there are a lot of reasons. One is the context of school. It's called school grammar. There are certain expectations, even that children have, which is when I'm in school, I have to learn. Learn means boring. If I have fun, it's a sign I'm not learning. So it's a general culture of I think Western societies. And then there's so many outside pressures. For example, teachers are expected to do coverage. Let's make it the home mill. So the ministry says you need to finish all these chapters. So who's got time for having the kids do flip grid? There's no time.
Mhm. So,
Uh,
Melody, we
yeah.
both know who's in charge of English in Israel. Is there any chance you think that after this virus, that maybe there will be a difference, and it won't be as much covering material, but getting the students excited about English or whatever subject it is, to have them express themselves?
Absolutely. In fact, the head of the English department, who is wonderful, came onto our conference and she gave 2 different lectures of how excited she is about this, how
You're allowed to mention her name.
Siona Levy, Dr. Levy, who is just terrific, and Luba and
Hi,
Marcia from Gulfport.
Fiona.
I give a lot of credit to inviting her.
I should
And
have Fiona on the show, actually. That's
oh,
a
sure. And
that's
also
a good.
Luba is amazing, and Marcia and Dorit and Miri and Healy, amazing team. Yes, we're all in it.
We'll do it
And
one at a time.
yeah, yeah, teachers are really convinced of this.
And my
So
sister Miriam Duanis.
and your sister Miriam Duanis, right? So there are a lot of reasons why we couldn't get to this previously, and now we can't not get to it because kids literally turn us off. So it's anyway. There's so many platforms. Maybe it's too many here, but so many platforms that you could have them present their products. It's just so easy, and the kids can teach us. You don't have to worry. And this is the last slide of what we presented in the conference or in the course was for elementary, Toontastic, amazing cartoons for free, delicious. E-maze, it's a glorified a PowerPoint, but so glorified that your mouth drops open. And then, of course, our books, that you know and love, which are good from 3rd grade up to 12th grade. And I'm a firm believer in your platform. So we've reached the 21st century pedagogy, not not because we wanted to, but we had to, and we're so happy. And our books plays a part.
Well, thank you so much. We've been co-opted because our books was created for illustrators and authors, and you're an author, and we're going to get to that in a moment. But we've been kidnapped by education all over the world, and it's a good thing. So we have writers from the age of 5 in 30 different languages. That's so exciting. So tell me about your own books. You have like almost a dozen books of your own.
Yeah, I'll show you some of them. Hold on a second. Let me. I'll stop sharing this one, and I'll get back to some of these. Thank you for allowing me to show them.
Oh,
Oops,
well, you're
let's
actually
share.
promoting our platform, so how can I say no?
Thank you. Okay, hold on a second. Okay, stop share. Share screen.
I'll tell you what I'm worried about now.
Yeah.
is the kids are going to have such a great experience studying in high school that they're going to realize how lousy university is.
Ah, that's funny. Yeah, well, good luck. Okay, so here is your site, and this is just about me, boring, boring, boring. And then here
Hmm.
are some of the books that I have published with you. This stay home book, I basically pretended I was a fifth grader. I have to say that because I need to give an example that you can have one or two words on a page or a few, and even beginning English. And you can have a wonderful book. And then your sister presented a book for 11th graders. That was the matriculation. That must have been 30, 40 pages, which was incredible. So the books that I published with you on our books are basically the main ones are 8 of them here. I finished a doctorate and worked with individual learning differences of teachers. Teachers think that they're teaching what they know, but really teachers teach who they are. And a lot of who they are comes out when they're teaching, and we
Is there,
don't always know
Melody,
that.
is there anything wrong with that? I think it's terrific.
It is terrific. I've done research on teachers who have extreme individual learning differences. Let's call it learning styles or cognitive styles. There, you can argue about this, but certain preferences. So if somebody is highly auditory, I've seen teachers who have nothing visual in the classroom, for example, or extrovert teachers
Hmm.
who assume that if you don't raise your hand, you must be dumb or not know anything. And those are the introverts. So they're not always aware of people that are super different. That's my entire doctorate is about that.
Wow.
So I have collected hundreds of teacher stories over the years. That's part of their final. I taught this class on individual learning differences, learning styles, for about 16 years
Hmm.
in Hebrew, in English, a semester, a year, all sorts of different things. And I researched it. I researched 9 different courses, and these are several stories from those classes. I have a lot more to do.
Hmm. So show
And
us.
and it's all about how teachers begin to understand only when they understand it on themselves. When the penny drops, when the asimon nofel, they go, "Oh my gosh, you mean you can't read a map, and I can, and you can't. You can't. It looks it's fuzzy to you, and I can. Oh my God, you're smart. I'm smart. You mean maybe these kids are smart too." So it's only when they get it on themselves that they get it on the kids, and they become more effective teachers. So I wanted to share, if you allow me, one of the
Sure.
books called The Cheeky Bio Boys. This is a true
Hmm.
story. It is researched. It is documented. It is a real boys and a real teacher. And here's your beautiful book. I love to turn the pages of your beautiful books here, right? Okay. So there was a class. This is a true story, an 8th grade class. The picture, of course, is from the internet. It's not real, the real kids.
Hmm.
And I
If you
have the
if you
credits in
do
the back.
if you do function 5 or 6, you can maybe make the book even bigger.
Oh, function 5 or 6. Okay.
Well, if it
Yeah,
doesn't work,
hold
it
on a
doesn't
second.
work.
How's that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, but
I'm
you
too
might not
big.
see the
Too big.
whole. Okay, too big.
Now it's good.
Is that okay? Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, big. Great.
Wonderful. You don't see us. You see us in the corner?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll put us on the bottom. Here we go. Oh,
Hmm.
no. How do I get it so we see the right-hand side?
That's okay. We see most of the book. That's
Okay,
good.
wonderful. Okay, cool. Okay, so this was an 8th grade class, and there was a teacher. I named her Miriam, and she taught biology, and she was a wonderful teacher, and she was a wonderful teacher for those who do well in tests. Very left hemisphere, very methodical. Kids loved her. She was terrific, and she was fair, organized, etc. She was a great teacher. 8th grade. This is in a school in Rehovot, middle school. And she taught photosynthesis, and she was very organized and take out your homework and do this. And there were 2 kids in the class named Roni and Jonathan. Those are not real terms. And when the bell rang, they ran in late as usual. And she said, make sure and copy down what's on the board. And this Roni and Jonathan would often sabotage her lesson. They didn't do their homework. They didn't copy the chart. They asked irrelevant questions. They were very cheeky, which is chutzpah, and obviously they didn't understand what was going on in 8th grade biology. Well, Miriam, the wonderful teacher, knew that that these two boys were lazy. They really didn't do anything. They ran away from class. And she also really was convinced they were not particularly bright. They didn't understand things. They failed her tests. They ran away. She was very happy when they didn't show up for class. And they were nudniks. What can you say? That's who they were.
Bothersome.
Very bothersome, to say the least. Now, meanwhile, back at the farm, the Weizmann Institute of Science was doing research with this particular school. My husband, Sherman Rosenfeld, was involved, and so was I, involved towards the end. They did project-based learning with this school. Now, this particular teacher had no experience with project-based learning. She was a regular frontal, take out your books, here's a test. Terrific for that, but she had never done PBL. But okay, she's learned it. And in March, they began to switch from the traditional to PBL. And they had the topic, which was 5 senses. So the kids had to choose a topic and experiment and research and write it up. And there was going to be this beautiful poster presentation in the very end, which I was invited to. Okay, great. So not all the teachers like PBL, and you can predict that Miriam did not like PBL, but she did it. She liked traditional better. She was better at it, but she was a good sport and she did it. And so were some of the other teachers. So they taught some of the basic topics, etc. But she felt comfortable teaching broad necessary knowledge of biology. And when you do projects, you don't get that. You get specific, individual, very exciting, but you kind of miss some things and it's messy. That's welcome to PBL. So what happened with Roni and Jonathan? Well, she tried to direct them. And strangely enough, what happened is that Roni and Jonathan took a topic which was of high interest to them. And the interest was to compare Roni's dog. This is really true. This picture, of course, is not them. But Roni really had a dog. And they decided they were going to compare their olfactory senses, since it's the 5 senses, with their senses, and to see who had better olfactory senses, the dog or them. And they, for example, they took a crackers and they put it in the couch, and then they go, on your market, set, go. And they had to time whether or not Jonathan could find it or whether the dog could find it. And of course, the dog won, all the time. And it was a hilarious kind of a thing. So funny. And she was very surprised that they chose a topic. She was like, very exciting. Well, here's the dog's nose. So what they did is they actually went to Kaplan Hospital in Rehovot on their own. They interviewed an ear, nose, and throat doctor. They interviewed a vet. They shared their findings. They ran after her. Hamora, teacher. We need to know olfactory. It was all in Hebrew. This is just, I'm telling about it in English, but all in Hebrew. They learned the terminology of senses. They actually read. They actually read they showed up to class, which was shocking to her. And that's what they did. Now, at the end, there was a big school presentation. All the parents came and they came. Now, I didn't know about this ahead of time, but I was invited by Sherman and we were researching the school anyway. And the teacher came over to me because I happen to know the teacher very well. Her name is not Miriam, but never mind. And she said, Melody, you have to see this. This is, I just can't explain this. It's so amazing. And she showed me Roni and Jonathan's dog project. She gave them an 80. Previously they had 30s and 40s, like they never did anything. And she was in shock. And she said, here's what they did, blah, blah, blah. She explained that they went to a vet, and this is the one of the projects. And she said that she was quite amazed at their performance. Now, I, as a researcher of individual learning differences, quickly figured out that these boys had a different learning style than the teacher. The teacher we know is left hemisphere, very organized, very sequential. And these boys were right hemisphere, creative, confluent. There's all sorts of different scales that we can use. That's the Learning Combination Inventory, the LCI of Johnson, which shows kids who are highly confluent. They have to do things a different way. 4th quadrant on format of McColb, which is I need to do it my own way. And please give me a choice to do it, because otherwise I can't pay attention to you, teacher. I don't get it. But if you let me choose and you let me do it my way, then I'll go back in the learning cycle and I'll ask you for the facts. So in 1 second, it was like, well, here's a great example of mismatched learning styles or mismatched preferences. And when I asked her, well, why do you have an explanation? I didn't tell her any of this. And I said, well, Miriam, so how do
Melody,
you,
can we go back to the screen now?
the
Do you need
screen
to
is not
share the
here?
screen some more?
It's not here?
No, do you need to share the screen some more?
Oh, is that out there?
Yeah, no, I'm saying if let's go back to where people can see us.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I love our books, but are we finished with the book?
No, no, no. Two more pages. I'll do two more
Okay,
pages and I'll, okay, here we
because
go.
you're more exciting than even our book.
Oh, that's so sweet. Okay. So anyway, she did not get it. I'll finish the book, then I'll explain. So she did not get it that these kids learn really differently. So here's how here's my metaphor for helping teachers understand it. That's why these are teacher books. For kids with extreme learning preferences, she had an extreme learning preferences left. They had extreme learning preferences in a different direction. It can make a big difference. And it's like thinking of a fish. If the context
Mhm.
is water, then the fish looks really smart and not lazy. But if the context is air, the fish looks pretty clumsy and makes a lot of noise. That's like the boys. They were out of context. They didn't learn well that way. So if you have this beautiful goldfish, they make a lot of noise and they disturb your lesson because they're out of water. Put them in water. Let's see what the context is that they do better at. And these kids are disadvantaged. They're not stupid and they're not lazy. They're disadvantaged, which is why nowadays with Zoom and exciting projects, you're going to see a lot more of these kids looking good and looking smart. So here's the teacher. A lot of teachers are pleasantly surprised because when you switch from traditional to PBL projects, all of a sudden you see kids who usually fail your tests doing pretty well on the projects, and vice versa. Kids who do well on tests sometimes do not like projects. Sharon and I published an article about that, the surprises in PBL. These teachers have never heard about this phenomenon. So that's where my work comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And if they did hear about the phenomenon, and we hope they hear more about matching context and about different learning styles and different learning preferences, which you're going to see now in the new age, then maybe they won't be so surprised when they have different kids performing differently with these new R books and podcasts, and the kids who never did anything in class, all of a sudden they show what they can do.
That's
So
that's wonderful.
that's my I'll stop the share.
Yeah, absolutely. So we
I'll
can
stop
see
the
your
share.
beautiful face. That's
Oh,
better.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So,
So,
so Melody, that's terrific. Um, and I call problem-based learning CBL, challenge-based learning. I don't like the word problems. I prefer challenges. And it started out in Canada, among other places. And so, as a Canadian, I'm very proud of PBL. And we started using it about 30 years ago at Tel Aviv University. We were among the first in Israel at the college level. Um, and I'm much more of a radical. The Zoom has changed my teaching. I ask my students now to give themselves marks at the beginning of a course, and then I just tell them to be worthy of getting the score that they want to get at the beginning, and that seems to work.
wow, wow. A little harder to pull off, in from first to 12th grade, but that's hopefully the
Well,
direction we're
well,
going to.
I'm going to ask you whether we select teachers based on their ability to be like the Miriam in your story, rather than the Ronnie or Jonathans, who are the teachers that I remember as a student. I remember less the Miriams who taught me wrote. And I'm guessing the people that become, university professors and the high tech people are going to be more in the fourth quadrant and less in loving this kind of monolithic vertical education that we're so used to teaching.
If I can interrupt, the research says that
I'm,
70% of university professors are actually in the second quadrant, which is giving information, habarat midah, and they love to lecture and they love to lecture, and they don't necessarily know. You might be unusual, but they don't necessarily know how to get the kids up on the stage rather than them on the stage. This is a whole new way of teaching, and it's a whole
Hmm.
new way. It's a whole new um, role of us as teachers. We now are facilitators to get kids to be active in, you say, problem-based learning. It can be also be project-based learning or performance-based learning, depending on science or English, etc. And we want the kids doing it because that's what Generation Z, that's how they learn the best. And
Hmm.
that's what we're headed towards. And yes, we need to start looking around for teachers who are more matched to that context and to help the teachers who are more second quadrant traditional in order to grow. Not so easy. It's not so
Hmm.
easy, but it's a
But
wonderful
those
challenge.
first of all, I think that university professors are not sufficiently rewarded for being good teachers, which is one of the reasons university teaching is not really very good, at least in Israel. And there's an unwritten agreement between students and professors. I don't know if it's the same in K-12. I won't teach you too much, and you won't complain about my teaching. Have you ever experienced this?
Yes, of course. Well, I teach a lot at the college level for about 35 years,
I know.
and when we began to have, which is wonderful, when we began to have students evaluate our teaching slightly changed depending on the institution. I've taught at several institutions, and not only we became nicer, of course, but the standards lowered. It's not so easy. It's not so easy. Um,
Well, what are the challenges now? How do we take teachers that are used to teaching information that is easier to get outside of the classroom rather than what you're talking about, which is engagement and encouragement and excitement, which is what teachers should become. You call them facilitators, I call them think mentors.
what do you call them?
Think mentors.
Think mentors. Think mentors. Okay. Well, it depends, of course, on the topic. So you taught, you're a professor of biology for many years, and you have a whole set of information, as like in all the sciences. But you
Hmm.
also have things like how to think like a scientist. How do you think like a scientist, or how do you think
Yeah, well,
like a
thinking
historian?
like a scientist is exactly the opposite to how you're taught in your undergraduate degree. Like you go into a chemistry class and you're going to make saccharin. So you follow the recipe from Berichta from 200 years ago. And if you make saccharin, you get a high grade. If you make something else, which is how saccharin was discovered,
Right.
you fail.
Well, things are in context. So you can't say that we just need to choose good teachers or train wonderful teachers nowadays. That's of course part of it, but you have to get higher than that. You have to get to the matriculation requirements because that's what teachers are slaves to. You have to get the kids up to matriculation, and you have to change universities. Universities seem to set the tone of what their incoming students need. They need a body of knowledge. They better have it. They have to, psychometry test and the SATs. If you don't know it, then you high school teachers have failed. So you have to change. You have to change that framework. And I think that the distance learning has been a wonderful impetus in order to get the field changed. We didn't listen to the universities. We listened to the facts that you can't teach facts for an hour and a half
You
anymore. Like,
shouldn't
good
be listening
morning.
to the universities, Melody. You should be teaching the universities how to think. Because I'm with you. The universities have it all wrong. Um, I teach like we talk about, and I won't tell you because we're on the air how much the students at Shankar loved me, and so they fired me. This often happens. Um, so we're now in some kind of revolution, and the things you're saying that you prepare your students to have enough knowledge to get into university, but But you don't need knowledge to get into university. You can learn knowledge if you know how to learn. It's harder to teach students how to think.
And it's hard to know how to, I hate to say it, how to test project-based learning. So as long as we have to give scores, and as
Yeah,
long as we have to evaluate
yeah,
and have a bell-shaped curve,
yeah.
there's little time to. It's hard to grade projects. I've been doing it for years. I have my own system, and I don't give quizzes and tests, and I try to make them learn more, but it's time consuming. So the whole system should, if we could crack open the system and have kids not in four walls, hello, that's today, and not and have them maybe not in the same ages. Maybe we could think about doing that and really think out of the box, like perhaps topic oriented rather than seventh grade oriented.
Yes.
Yeah. or, or, or for example, I know the research with the Weizmann Institute through Sherman, my husband, is when kids are involved in project-based learning, they spend dozens and dozens more hours learning the material because they're motivated to do it. So if you could convince the system and
And then they remember it after they've learned it.
and they think like scientists and they're excited about it. Somehow the system has a feeling like kids have to suffer in order to learn something, and of course they don't. And maybe this will be some experience that teachers will experience them being really excited about learning biology or math or speaking English, for goodness
Hmm.
sake. So
Well, listen, this has been so instructive. We have to talk offline because you especially, because you are a researcher in K-12 education and teachers at that level, and you are a university professor as well.
I am not. I'm a college lecturer.
Same for me. And
Thanks.
you're a PhD, and you're a beloved teacher and writer, and the universities have to listen to you because what you're saying is, you forced us into a straitjacket where we have to have a bell curve to make it easy for you to select students. And we spent 12 years helping you select students, and then you screw up. I'm serious. Anyway,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
this has been remarkable. If I had hairs on my head, they would be going like this. What haven't we talked about, Melody?
What haven't we talked about? Eh,
Music.
no, please.
No, I just want to know one thing. Your parents named you Melody, right?
My mom named me Melody, yeah. But when I grew up many years ago, we didn't have a tape recorder. We didn't have. We barely had a television. We barely had electricity. No, we had electricity. And I am extremely visual, and I am extremely artistic, and I come from sort of that kind of family, and so I didn't listen to music a lot. And even though I took 6 years of piano and my kids are highly musical and my husband's highly musical, and so my name fits. But if you ask me about musicians, I will be terribly embarrassed, and so
So I,
that's
I won't
me.
ask you. I won't ask you about the Beatles.
That's about the level I've gotten to. My kids laugh at me. Yeah.
No, but do your kids like the Beatles?
Yeah, they think that our generation has the absolute best. We absolutely have Simon and Garfunkel. We have the best music going. Oh my God.
I I have a record of theirs on the turntable. Simon and Garfunkel. You see, you didn't want to talk about music, and there
I
you go.
know. I know. I know you're. I would love to sign up for one of your music courses. So
And
music
you're welcome.
appreciation would be great.
Simon and Garfunkel. Do you have a favorite song of theirs?
Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 65, 64? Oh, I don't remember words to songs very well.
Okay, that's actually a Beatles song, but
Oh,
it's one
Beatles.
of
There
the,
you go. You
but no,
see?
but it's a great Beatles song. And there you see, you didn't want to talk about music, and there you go off singing and dancing and
Ah, I'm blushing.
and blushing.
I'm
So,
blushing.
Melody, what haven't we talked about? It's like been a great pleasure having you on. You've got Mel.
Talk about Corona.
No, we don't talk about Corona
We
on
don't
the
talk
show.
about Corona. We don't talk about
But
pandemic.
but just
Talk
let me ask
about
you this: while we're not talking about Corona, um, so do you think that we're ever going to go back to frontal teaching? Is there always, because Zoom and Skype and all these things have been with us for years and we never use them. Um, and the online teaching has certain advantages. Do you think we're ever going to go back now to 100% frontal teaching, or there'll always be an element of the Corona age?
I would hope. I mean, I don't know, but I would certainly hope because frontal teaching has got to be the least effective of any kind of teaching. If you want to teach a human anything, the worst is put them in a room, have 29 or 30 other kids his age with one adult who maybe knows the material or who knows the material well. Sorry, that's got to be the worst system ever. And then threaten them with grades and threaten them with feeling embarrassed if they don't know the answer, et cetera. So, I mean, I would hope that we would continue with hybrid. Certainly for the 11th and 12th graders, it makes a lot of sense. For little kids going every other day or having some, shorter day and then having some Zoom activities. And then if teachers are using, the teachers are wonderful out there. They're up to bat. They're just amazing. And they're using these platforms. Once you use these platforms and know them, like our books, like emails, like Toontastic, it's like second nature, and I think they'll be doing them. I'm very hopeful. I'm very hopeful. It's if only the universities could back off. The problem is we're in a feudal society, and the feudal society is that the universities are the lords, and they own the game,
Yeah, and
and
people like us get fired
yeah, we're
for
the serfs. Yeah.
telling them that, they're doing it wrong.
Yeah, or not doing it as effectively as they could. They could have we need STEM teachers, science and technology and math. We need those teachers. We need a lot more people who are excited, and kids are not going into it because it's pretty boring. So it serves them to join the 21st century. So I
Melanie,
hope
nothing is boring
it was done.
when you take possession of it. This is what I learned as a graduate student. The moment a professor gives you a project and it's his, it's boring. The moment you come back and you say, hey, I've discovered something. I found this article that the professor didn't know about. I did this experiment with surprising results. It becomes yours. And the moment it becomes yours, so I think that one of the things that I've learned over the past million years is that you have to give the students ownership.
And that's not just for 11th grade biology, that's
No,
for
no.
4th grade English. So here are some vocabulary words. What are you going to do with the vocabulary words? Are you going to write a story to your mom? Are you going to make a Valentine? That's in America. Are you going to make a little book? Are you going to put a PowerPoint presentation with your 10 words? Show us what you're going to do with it and then talk and record
Or,
yourself.
or write a song or a
Write a
dance,
song about it. And the kids
paint
love
a
it.
picture.
That's the irony is they love it. They learn more, whatever the topic is and whatever the English is. And it's wonderful. So yeah, I hope I'm pretty optimistic. I hope so.
Okay, I listen. You're doing great stuff, and it's a real honor to know you,
You know,
and to share so many things with you. Our Habonim history,
who knew?
Kibbutzurim, our name, our passion for a different kind of education. Um, Dr. Melanie Rosenfeld, thank you so much for being on You've Got Mel. So
Thank
today
you.
was You've Got Mel with Mel.
Yeah, I'm going to take that song. There you go. Oh,
Okay,
thank you
dear.
so much.
Thank you. Have a wonderful year.
You too.
And I want to continue this conversation offline because I think you're wonderful. Thank you so much for being
You
on
too.
this show.
Thank you. Toda rabah.